Not even looking here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo Mish Mash. This one being broadcast November 10th, 2021. We are barreling towards the end of the season. I'm so glad to be back on the show and welcome longtime friends and guests, Tonya and Steve. We'll start with you, Tonya. Steve, I saw you like a half an hour ago in Italy, feels
I
like.
know it feels like that.
So let's talk to
Feels
Tonya,
like
who we
I'm
haven't
better
seen in a little while. So,
I'm just here.
Tonya, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is my busy season, so.
Yeah, I've noticed. So I've got Tanya's Instagram up where you do a lot of kind of your personal portraiture, but from there you can get to your professional, kind of page where you've been posting senior portrait after senior portrait. I'm curious to hear a little bit. We'll get to you in a second, Steve. We know how you've been. I'm curious. I'm curious to know a little bit. How many seniors are you shooting a week, and how are you managing this kind of workload on top of a day job as well?
Well, my day job is wonderful to me because I just say like, "Hey, I'm leaving for a shoot." So, because I work at a school and actually my studio is connected to the school, I rent from them as well. So it streamlines my life very nicely. But
Nice.
they do let me prioritize my work,
Mhm.
and they know that fall's my busy season, so they're really supportive. Um, but it just depends. Like sometimes in the fall, generally speaking, I have 2 shoots a week at least. Sometimes it's 3. And I just had like a week of rain where I had to reschedule a lot of people. So I've been packing them in. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so you're doing a lot of outside work, and I'm just I asked the question about balancing the kind of the day job and the work because there's a lot of people both that are part of our pen member and also just a lot of photographers in general that hope to make this transition someday to maybe full-time shooting or at least just kind of want to try to do a little bit of have a job where they might have health insurance and things like that that are a little useful, plus be able to pursue their passion. So it's just interesting to talk to somebody who's got a foot in both of those worlds. Uh, so you're doing a lot of outside work. Are you using lights outside? Remind me.
Uh, well, yes, but not the way people recommend that you do.
Oh,
I'm very much a rule breaker, I feel like. I actually shoot, I always use a flash, but on camera outside. Um,
okay.
and I just kind of direct that in differently. Like I don't usually shoot it directly at the person. Even if I'm not bouncing it, I'm just not using it directly. And I just use
Mhm.
it so that I'm adding a tiny bit of fill because I don't want to lose like the eye sockets and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
yeah, so I use it as a little bit of a fill, and some every once in a very great while, if I am shooting something super specific, I shoot off camera flash, and I think that's probably a better way to do it. But because I don't work with an assistant, I guess I just kind of like learned my way to make it easy for me to move and kind of use. I try to hit a lot of different locations with seniors if I can.
Mhm.
And I do indoor and outdoor with a senior. I spend a lot of time with them. Like it's really a boutique kind of experience. And we start in the studio and we get some studio shots. And I kind of get a feel from them, what they want more of. And generally speaking, we do a little bit of both in studio and on location. So.
Nice, nice. We were talking a little bit right before the show started. I'm curious. You are a talented photographer, but if a student shows up in very awkward clothing, I mean that can make it very challenging. Is there what do you do? What advice can you offer both the students or other photographers that are looking to do a little bit more of this work to make their life as easy as possible? Which is what
Well, so for a senior, I want it to be their style. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't really need to mesh with my style.
Mhm.
But a lot of times I tell them if they have any questions about clothing, bring more, and I'm going to help them go through it. So first thing we do is like hang up all of their wardrobe and we talk about it. And I talk about my ideas for backgrounds with it. And sometimes like what we can mix and match or every once in a while, if they have a variety, I can say like, I know this pattern is not going to photograph well, so let's skip this one. Or I'll say like, hey, these are very similar, so which one's your favorite? Um, And then actually, like for my maternity and for some of my children, I keep wardrobe pieces at the studio, which I'm adding to all the time. So that's really nice. Like really for a maternity session, you could just show up. I actually have that much wardrobe. So that's fun. And that gets to be real kind of outside of the normal of what you would wear. And I still encourage them to bring their own stuff too, but I just nobody wants to buy like something super fancy that they're going to wear once. But maternity really lends itself towards really like elegant things and robes that are revealing of the stomach. And so I like to provide that for my clients, and also for the kids. Like I just have some like gorgeous gowns for little girls that, you know, you don't get a lot of use out of that, but I do. So, and then I name them after my clients who wear them for the first time.
That's cute.
So
nice. All right, good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. As you said, it's your busy season to join us today. And we got Steve on. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's nice to be back. Well, I don't know. I was going to say it's nice to be back from Italy, but we had a pretty amazing time out there. How can you not? It's Italy. There's a large group, though, larger than normal. So just a lot of moving pieces, getting a group that size, including 6 instructors to just move around and, you know, everybody be on the same page with the tour. And so it was a really, really awesome time, but it was also quite an exhausting time. So it is nice to be home. I'm catching up on some sleep. And started, well, as you're showing on the screen there, started diving into editing a couple of my Italy pictures. And I wish I had time to do more, but they're just going to kind of leak out a day or two at a time. And boy, what an incredible place.
Yeah, it was, again, Tonya and I were talking just a little bit before the trip. I mean, Italy is fantastic. The history, the culture, the food, and then the scenery. Everything from up north, where on the pre-extension, you know, a smaller group of us started in the Dolomites and then made our way down into Venice. And for all of us except for Dave and Allie and a couple of clients, that was our first time in Venice. I'd been to Italy before, actually been to Italy 2 other times, but never made it to Venice. And it's as awesome as it seems, maybe even a little bit more so. I was a little reserved in my excitement for Venice because I thought it was going to be very crowded and maybe a little too touristy, but it was busy in places, but never terrible. And as soon as you step off the kind of the main streets, you're instantly transported. It's quiet. There's only a small number of people around, and you just see these people going about their lives in such a different world than any of us are used to. There's no cars. They're walking or they're taking boats. It's fascinating. I loved it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I just really have thought about since I've been home is just how grateful everybody, all the locals, were for us to be there as tourists, to be visiting. I mean, you think about it, they got slammed so hard with COVID. We all know about that. But you saw it on people's faces. You also sadly saw a lot of empty facilities and people talking about what they've had to sell in order to just survive business-wise and to be there. But like the tour guides that we used and all the places that we went were just so appreciative of, whether it was from buying a gelato to doing an entire tour with, you know, guides that took us around. They were just so grateful to have us come back and visit, and that just it just makes you feel really good. You know, so and it doesn't have to be Italy. You know, there's a lot of people that have suffered, including right here at home, for so long, and it's nice to feel a little bit of normalcy coming back. And we're so fortunate because we get to travel for work. But I have a much deeper appreciation for what we get to do, having been grounded for so long. And man, to just be able, I found myself it was so surreal to be in Italy right now after so much time of just being at home. It was a really special trip in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I agree. I have an Instagram coming out tonight, and I was writing the caption before this show, and I almost it's of one of the canals at night, and there's just no people in it. And I'll say this on the show because it's a smaller audience than my Instagram post, maybe. I mean, I almost want to encourage people to travel now. You can do it safely. I think you should be fully vaxxed. I think you should wear a mask anytime you're around people. And I think that's safe. And as Steve is saying, it's making a difference in these people's lives, and places are quieter. I think we're going to look back at this time, and this is the part I didn't want to say in the caption, and I don't want to say and miss it. But as far as the quieter, every place is being quieter. We're going to look back at this and say, gosh, maybe I should have traveled more during this time, because, the whole world is not traveling right now. And so when the rules are there and are in place that are allow you to, take advantage of it.
Yeah. We really noticed it in Iceland because we were there in 2018, same time of year, 2018 compared to we just got back from there. And tourism was down at least 50% of what it was in 2018, which is a lot. I know that, but holy cow, it was one of the most amazing experiences, because Iceland has gotten so crowded over the years, and even during the crowded times, I still encourage people to go because it's such a breathtaking place, and there's still so much land to spread out and see. But I do, comparing that to when we were there in 2018, it was really, really cool. From little things like just being able to stop into a restroom when you want to and not have to wait in a line or pay a whole bunch of money. Those little things over time and through experience make a big difference. And yeah, I think someday we are going to look back and be like, remember in 2021 when we finally started traveling again, how nice and quiet things were? That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Teresa in chat makes a really good point. Don't go to the national parks right now, though. That is true. As having just run 2 Zion tours at the beginning of, or basically a month ago, Zion is crushing visitation records. And, in a way, that's a great thing. I'm so glad people are visiting our national parks. But geez, it is just a huge difference as far as just how crowded the national parks are. So international travel, I'd say I encourage you, if you feel safe and you're following the rules, can be done. Maybe give the parks a little bit of break if you can.
And to your point about some of the hoops that you have to jump through for international travel right now, yeah, they're kind of a pain, but the payoff, to me anyway, is so worth it. And it was really great to have this many people do a tour of Italy for 10 plus days. And all of us got COVID tests before catching our flights home, and nobody was positive. I think we were all vaccinated as far as I know, but it's just, we've done a couple of these now, and each time you do it, you just feel a little bit better about getting out there. And of course, if somebody's not comfortable with it, that's perfectly fine. I'm not really speaking to you, but if you're kind of on the fence and you're concerned about it, our lines are always open to discuss our experiences, and it's been awesome. It's nice to get back out there. It's great.
Yep.
Can't say it enough.
Yep. All right. Couple of things. One, we got to keep the show to an hour. Both Steve and I have got stuff to do. Tonya, you probably do too. I didn't mean to leave you out. We're gonna leave Tonya on.
Next by the way, I'm sorry. I meant to ask this when you gave me the introduction and we got to talking about travel. But Tonya, you were talking about when people. Toby had asked the question about weird looks and stuff like that. Do you ever get people that have weird hairdos that you have to deal with?
Oh, sometimes. Only when I'm hired to photograph you.
Yes.
Nice.
Now, a lot of you might think that that's where we were going with this, but we were having an off-camera discussion before we logged on about some interesting hairdos that are happening among our seniors out there, and I'll just leave it at that. But something involves, really long hair back here.
I love all the styles.
All right.
It seems cyclic, that's for sure. See, everything goes in these cycles.
Yeah,
What's
had to put you on the spot there.
We got to talk about stuff. There's stuff to talk about on this show.
There is stuff to talk about.
The Nikon Z9 was officially announced. Why we're in Italy. Tonya, you're a Nikon shooter. We're going to come back and chat with you a little bit about how much you might be or not be lusting after that camera. The Mavic 3.
I'll spoil it. I want it.
Yeah. It looks very lovely. It looks like a camera that Nikon has poured their heart and soul into. And early reports are very, very positive. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. The Mavic 3 has been announced while I was in Italy. As a owner of the Air 2S, will I be upgrading? I mean, after all, it has a freaking micro four thirds sensor in it. That is a huge sensor. And almost 50-minute flight time, 50. That's nuts. So we'll talk about that. Steve, I know you got one on pre-order. Steve, where is that drone you own?
I was gonna say, wait, didn't somebody break their drone?
It's
right over here.
Oh, yeah, Tonya, let's change the subject from where Toby was going with his line of questioning to the drone that almost got completely ruined while we were in Italy.
Oh, John points out that there's a new firmware. Yeah, we'll come back to that. And Lightroom.
I'm more comfortable talking about breaking Toby's drone than the lack of flying that I've done with my own drone.
Yeah, Lightroom update. Honestly, I can't think of a other single update from Lightroom since its beta days that is as game-changing, as speeding up of my workflow as this. It means for me less time or more infrequently going to Photoshop. It's huge. We'll talk a little bit about that. Pen members, you're watching, you got the first video in a new series today that I'm going to be putting out talking about these new updates to the masking tool specifically is what I'm talking about. So we'll dive into that a little bit too. And I think that's mostly it. The new MacBooks have come out. They look gorgeous as well. The Canon R3 reports, that looks lovely. Here's what I'll say real quick about gear before we start to review some of your photos. And actually my goal for this show is to kind of get through a little bit of a backlog of reviewing photos. I'm constantly asked, hey, I need a camera for video or for photos. What should I buy? And a lot of time these days, my answer is they're all pretty good. It's hard to go wrong. But then I was shopping for myself today for a new kind of router for the house because we're starting to see some issues. I think we have too many little smart devices floating around. Plus, also on Wi-Fi, I see about a third of our actual internet speed versus wired. So I need a new router. And it was kind of painful researching, making sure that I wasn't going to get the wrong one. And I don't think it's completely on the same level as the cameras. But in a lot of ways, it helps me remember that you really don't want to feel like you're choosing poorly. And so doing that research, reaching out to people, asking people. And so I'm happy the pen community is here to support people and they have questions like that. I'm happy that I'm here as well. I'm still sticking with most of these cameras are pretty good. It's hard to buy a bad one these days. But you start to read the reviews of the some of the routers and they're like, well, this one you have to pay for monthly service. And I'm like, what? That's crappy.
Your point's really well heard and taken because it is easy when you do this. You work with cameras every single day and do trips and teach and all that stuff to just be engrossed in this photography world and kind of have your finger on the pulse of new gear that's coming out. Maybe you're not an expert on what that is and all the intricacies involved, but you know about it. Because a router is actually a perfect example. I went through that a couple of years ago and I was totally lost. It was a foreign world to me. It's something that I buy every so many years. I plug in, it works, I forget about it, hopefully, and then it breaks and I need a new one. And it's we have to remember that, especially like our clients and stuff that come in these tours, it's a whole world of photography that's totally confusing. And no wonder when we say, hey, a Me Photo tripod is really great as far as a budget-friendly tripod for doing these tours. We highly recommend this one. That now we see so many Me Photo tripods on our tours.
Yeah.
Because you want somebody that knows the business to just say, hey, this is a really good buy for you. And okay, good.
Yeah, I get exhausted shopping for things like that, especially if it is not something I ever plan on being an expert in. If I ask somebody like, hey, what are you using? I'm probably just going to buy that and not ever think about it again.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather pick a person that I trust than a brand.
Yeah.
And ask them.
That's one of those quotes that we should put up on the screen.
Because it's not even just, I mean, once you even narrow in on a brand, you still have so many choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's very true. I started to narrow in on the Asus brand.
Of the people that I follow. Like, I follow all these people who are teaching how to use with this brand. And so I'm going to go with that brand because then at least I know who to ask questions from. So
yeah, that's great. You know, for a lot of years, my advice with cameras was what do your friends and family shoot with? Because being able to go to somebody local for that advice and sharing lenses, is a nice thing as well. So that's always something to keep in mind. John Mayfield says, wait, too many smart devices is a thing? Well, apparently in our house it is, because they regularly say, I can't reach the internet right now. And so then you're like, I have to get up and turn the light off with myself with my own finger? What is this? Am I back in 15th century Italy? This is ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
I know. Especially since I live in a tiny house where switches are literally 3 steps away from the couch. How am I going to work off all this pasta? I don't know. It's definitely not.
I went to the doctor today
and
got weighed, and I was like, it was a lot of pasta in Italy, man.
I have not stepped on a scale, and I'm sticking to that for a while.
I don't own a scale, so.
Yeah, I don't either. So I go to the doctor, and I'm like, well, wait, what did that say? What did it say last time?
As long as everything still fits, it's fine.
All right. Let's review some photos. And we have a lot because we've kind of got a little backlog, plus people have been sending them in. These photos are sent in to us by PEN members. That's the Photo Enthusiast Network. And it is a fantastic community. Probably the best photography community on the internet. Just going to say that. As I said, I saw a Las Vegas billboard that was like, this is probably the best show in Las Vegas. I think it's probably the best photography community on the internet. I actually really do. It is a great community with tons and tons of resources. And one of the things that you can get is regular feedback on your images. And that's just a fantastic way to grow as a photographer. Hearing what we see in these images, what we share with you that you should look for when you're out in the field next time, of maybe, avoid this or capture a little bit more of that, or where you're putting your focus point, or how you're changing your exposure a little bit, are all valuable feedback to help you kind of improve as a photographer. So let's dive in. As I said, we've got a lot to go through, so we're going to be a little bit shorter, as we often try to do with these. First up, we've got Steve Pressman's Patagonia shot. You know what I'm going to do? I got 2 shots here that I think we can, in a way, talk about together, because both of these have a similar issue in my mind. They both have some strengths that are similar, but they both have an issue that's similar. Does anybody want to hazard a guess?
It's kind of hard for me to tell on the feed, but they look like there's a bunch of masking going on, as if you just went crazy with the noise reduction or something.
Oh, really? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, on the left one,
is it crunchy looking than the first one? It's hard. It's so hard seeing it this way.
Yeah, sorry. What I see is that we both have kind of foreground objects kind of intruding that don't really help tell the story. They haven't been made enough of the story. They're just kind of these little side players that are making me more distracted than anything from what's the real story. And I think the real story here is we can get some of these other, trees sticking up above this like marshy area, and then boom, mountains. And over here, we have kind of this low desert foreground, and then boom, these really cool mountains. But we got this bush and we got this taller dead tree. Both of them, I don't think, add to this image.
Yeah, well, especially on the right side, that foreground bush on the far left completely dominates the awesome. Is that Garden of the Gods, or where is that?
I'm not sure. It says just Light Supreme.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and look at the clouds and the sunset and everything about it. Even the angle of the camera with the foreground and stuff. It's great. It's awesome. And all I want to do is focus on the relationship of the rock structures, the mountains to everything else. And yeah, that bush is encroaching and it just minimizes everything. So I mean, to your point, yeah.
That's and this one is a lot easier to fix with just a quick crop, I think. That first one's a little trickier because it kind of branches into the mountain in the background and then we're getting into Photoshop.
Yep.
I'd also like to see more of a horizontal crop on this, Toby. I like where you went with that, but then there's so much in the sky that is just the same. And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's not layered enough to constitute needing, so much space up there. This is awesome right here, like this.
Yep. And we're now cropped in so much that we're starting to lose some of that detail. Let's use this real quick as an example of some of the new tools. So we have the icons have changed. We've basically put all of the masking tools, or as I mostly call them, local area adjustment tools, under one icon now. And we have these auto tools like select sky. You press that and it then goes and uses artificial intelligence to select the sky. And so far, I have been very impressed. It gets it mostly right almost all of the time. And that's pretty impressive. In this case, I think, a little texture and clarity down can help smooth this out. Maybe a little noise reduction up. We have just a little bit of green and a little bit of extra noise up there in that general vicinity. But this new masking tool and being able to quickly select that, you could also even just kind of warm it up a little bit more if you wanted. And this might battle back some of that green that we're seeing up there.
Yeah, one of the things I found with that sky selection, because I played around with that a couple of times now, is it's you said it right when you said mostly right. It's selecting the sky and fading into whatever the sky is meeting up against. It's not selecting the sky alone. There's bleed over that's happening. So just be careful with your adjustments that you're not really screwing up that line between, say a mountain and the sky. It's definitely not. It's not like Photoshop where you can do a sky replacement or easily just select the sky by itself as an individual layer. It's just selecting that general area, and it does a pretty good job.
Well, and I will say to that, it may help people to make those adjustments so that they kind of blend in a little bit better. Because if you have, like in this image, those rocks, the rock structure, they need to have that orange glow because of the way the light is in the sky. So I think if it didn't bleed in like that a little bit, that we would find we're going to start to see a lot of very artificial, like different portions of editing. So I hope they did that on purpose, kind of, to try to make it a more graceful transition. And I will say, I love how they actually create like a mask layer and you can paint in and out of that.
Yes.
It's almost when we did the show where you had Crystal and I on at the same time. And I think you asked us like, what was our hopes and dreams for Lightroom? And this was essentially it. Like, we should just be speaking this into existence more often. Like,
yes. Yes.
I was like, oh, that's everything I've ever wanted. And this is such, just like you said, it's a game changer upgrade for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge, and you know, I'm sure for you, Tanya, probably it's a subject selection tool.
Yes.
Just makes it so easy to quickly select your subject, and that for me is why I'm going to Photoshop less, because then I can easily select my subject in Lightroom and do a little, you know, local area adjustment, sharpening to my subject, invert that, and do a little bit of work on the background to kind of, you know, desaturate it, soften it a little bit if I want to make my subject stand out a little bit more. Yeah.
I'm still gonna live in Photoshop because I love it, but I do like this.
Yeah.
This little
All right, we're
cutie.
going to move on. We got Ron Gordon's, pretty sure this is Amsterdam.
Ooh,
That's awesome.
it
Wow.
is awesome. This has fantastic black and white tonal range.
Yes. Yes, it does.
You know,
Re-
that's perfectly said, Tanya, because quite honestly, if I had this shot in my camera, I'd load it into Lightroom, I'd look at the raw file, and I'd be like, I think I'm just going to find something else in my stack to work on. But the way that it was done as a black and white, and the tonal range that he did, and the processing that he did, it looks killer. And I love the way the light is reflecting in the water. And I don't know, there's something about this picture that just really grabbed me as soon as it was shown. And huge kudos to who is this, Ron? Yeah,
this is
good
Ron.
job,
Yep.
Ron. It's awesome.
Yep.
I love this,
F10.
and it is so hard to, I think, have this strong quality of light in a black and white.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do
Nice.
want to ask, is the horizon line just a little bit off? I feel like I want to. Well, maybe I just want to crop off that building at the very left that leans in a little.
Hmm. Yep.
Maybe that
I
would
think
straighten it.
Yeah, I think Ron shot this at a slight angle. You know, this far side of the canal is sloping away from us gently. And that's what gives that the feeling. And also, buildings in Amsterdam are not straight. You know, they lean forward a little bit more, and it's actually part of the reason it was built deliberately so that you could haul stuff up to the top floor without banging it into the floors down below. So you'll see that on some of these buildings.
Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that.
Funny, yeah.
But I'll say what I do. I love this image, but I want an image right here. Is that just too much?
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked, it's weird because I probably would have taken this shot and been really disappointed with the way I just caught partial boats.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it just seems to work, especially the one on the left with that sloping glass roof line going all the way as a leading line straight to the buildings that are lit up. And I don't know, this is just a really cool, powerful image, and I can't really put my finger on it.
Nice.
I love when images do this to me too.
Mm-hmm. They speak to you. All right. Yeah. If you're definitely afraid of snakes, watch out. Here we go.
Ooh.
Dang.
I'm not. I love this.
This has Tonya written all over it, man. If it slithers or is creepy and crawly, she's into it.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. I mean, I love
so cool.
The green. I love the isolation from the background. You know, the detail on the scales here and then on the head and how they're different but similar. I think this is great.
Good call on the depth of field too. What's the f-stop on this one?
5.6 at 181 millimeters.
Holy cow! Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually surprised that the fall off isn't even more severe. I mean, at that range, you'd think it would just fall off. It does fall off quickly. I think it looks really cool, but I would have never thought it was taken from that far away.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous at how perfectly symmetrical this snake is posed for this image.
I know.
I mean,
it's very.
It's
very
not.
nice.
I shouldn't say that. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but this close, and also like the vignette of the lighting is just really. It just adds to the drama of this so well.
Yeah. No. I want to point out to people, again, probably hard to see through YouTube, but this is ISO 3200. And sure, when you get in close, you start to see a little bit of noise. I don't know, Eric, if you ran this through any denoiser or not, but this is a great example of you shouldn't be scared to shoot at higher ISOs when you need to, because I have no problems with the amount of noise in this image. I think it looks great. I will say that I guess it is very sharp here. The nose almost seems not quite as sharp as just a little bit behind the nose. And you probably actually were maybe focused on the eyes as we say you should, but I would love to see just a teeny bit more sharpness on the nose. And also we have a couple of these little highlights picking up that I think you could get rid of, but those are minor. And
and I mean, some of the consequence of shooting from far away, and now that I'm looking at some of the sides, you see where the edge of the snake meets the black and stuff, and it's kind of really spread out there. I don't know if there's chromatic aberration that's happening there. It's hard to tell because the snake's green, but you may get by with a square crop and just cutting some of those sides out. I like the way it's cropped. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to crop it.
Really take you right into the middle. I don't know. I would just something to play around with, but I think the way it's presented is just killer.
Well, and I don't know where this was shot, but it also could have been shot through glass. If it was at some sort of like reptile house or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to tell. If it was shot through glass, it's really well done and sharp. So
yeah. Nice. All right. Hey, we have, I'm pretty sure, a first. I don't think we've ever critiqued a photo with a doofus in it before.
Oh man.
That's
Lisa,
Steve.
right on.
Okay, you can Photoshop that out.
Let's fix it.
I think for nice. Good job, Lightroom. Okay, so let's use this as an example of why you use Photoshop for that type of work.
What happens if you subject select in this?
That's a great question. Let's try real quick.
Will it
Select
figure?
subject. Wow. So the turning red, it grabbed Steve, but it also grabbed little bits of the water.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So definitely not perfect in that case, but not bad.
But then it put a little person icon down there. Does it always do that if you hit select subject? Like if you don't have a person in there, select subject, will it select something? Or does it mean that it's always going to find a person in the picture?
That is, if you use the subject selection, that's the little icon that represents it, whether or not it's a person or bird or snake.
Oh, okay.
It would use that. And the sky one, it's a tiny little. Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just kind of a diamond. If we just do a general mask.
Let's talk about how much fun that guy is having.
Oh, that's probably.
I am glad he wore red. Good job.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to say that I'm photoshopped into this picture because legally I don't think I was supposed to be there, but I found that out after I left the spot.
Those ropes were just guidelines.
Right.
So.
It is very dangerous now that you mention that.
Yeah, that was okay. So it looks like, and I am very close to the edge. Let's not kid each other here, but there's actually some more space over there. And that was by far the furthest I was going to go because I'm smiling, but my heart is thumping like crazy right there. Hey, you can even see my case filters. Good job, Lisa.
All right. Let's actually critique this now. I think this is great. I'm going to bring out the crop tool real quick. Look at rule of thirds. You've got the falls kind of dominating, and then we can have a discussion about whether these people should go or stay. But I definitely am not immediately get rid of them because they offer a nice sense of scale of just this vastness across this falls and up to here.
Yeah,
how much smaller those people are.
I would keep the people for what this is. Personally. I mean, because I don't think this is like competition print here. So I like just Kyle's comment that just popped up.
This
think,
actually, Kyle, this was flipped. I was standing on my head. Yeah, I don't know. As far as the people go up there, I like them up there. I love the sense of scale. Maybe the last two off to the far right, I consider. But to Tonya's point, and it's a really good point. It's not a competition photo. It's a fun shot. It shows scale. It's got this blast of color to these earthy tones in the falls and all that. So leaving that up there is perfectly fine. It's I think
I would maybe mask and I just feel like the water looks a tiny bit muddy, and maybe it was.
it was. Yeah.
Okay. I think that you could clean that up a little if you wanted to, but again, if you're doing this as something to remember and document, then keep it the way it was.
Yeah, I remember when we got there. Those of us that have been to Ditafoss before, I remember thinking, "Oh, geez, the water is so muddy compared to what I've seen in the past. That looks better."
Mm-hmm.
I just brightened it a tiny bit and dropped the saturation just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I only did it on the falls as it's falling, and I think it still matches pretty nicely with the water above.
I do want to say that I think she selected a really great exposure time, and I'll bet you this is, what is it, like quarter of a second?
No, it is 1.3 seconds. So you get kudos for holding so still.
I'm surprised. Yeah, what a dork. I'm surprised that you still see all the ripples and stuff up above, because the volume. So this waterfall right here has the most volume of water coming off of a waterfall in all of Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was this the one that was at the beginning of that? What's the Ridley Scott prequel to
Prometheus?
Prometheus.
Yeah, Prometheus shot. Yeah.
The volume of water is just unbelievable, and so you didn't really need much slowdown on your shutter speed to create this look, because everything was moving so fast. So I'm actually surprised that it was 1.3 seconds.
Yep. Okay. I think you did a good job. Oh, Roy points out in chat, and I think he's got a good point. It might be worth cloning this rock, this bigger rock sticking out. Just bring some of these others and kind of, bring that down a little bit in the kind of the forefront there, and I think you'll be good. Okay, nice, Lisa. I can't remember if we've done this one or not from Pam Case.
I haven't seen it before.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we have.
I haven't either.
Okay. Yep.
So,
real quick, Pam, a couple things I would do. I would kind of, similar to Steve's comment about Sue's shot. After a certain point in the sky, nothing changes. So, you don't really need that. I also would like a little bit less behind and a little bit more in front, kind of showing where it's going. And then, did my headphones just die? I think they did. Oh, bugger. Hang on a sec.
Well, while he's gone, I might actually crop that so that it's the opposite.
Crop.
Well,
so it's the opposite. So there's more sky.
Yeah. Well, no. So that the trail of water leads you up to it. See how there's like
I see
kind of highlight of water. I don't know. I might keep that kind of as the leading line.
So you can come back this way.
There you go. There's some purple right down in the lower left.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about.
Maybe sun flare?
That would have to be cloned out.
Yeah.
I'll just crop out a little bit.
So I've got a couple concerns, though, or one concern. I think there's just some really weird hazing that's going on where the boat meets the sky. You see it on the far left side, on the vertical. You see it on the deck in the middle, and you definitely see it on the far right side vertical. This sort of haziness. And there's some really weird stuff around the smoke where it meets the sky, where it's kind of dark. I just don't know if there was some painting that was going on and it just wasn't applied to the edges.
If I had to guess, and Pam's in chat, so you can correct, I would think this is a backlit ship, so that it was a bit shadowy, and you have brightened it, Pam, and we're seeing some results of that.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. And I also say it feels like the focus is kind of in the middle of the ship, and with the bow coming towards us, I want that to be as sharp as possible. I think I'd be okay with it falling off slightly in focus, but I want the bow to be the sharpest.
Yeah, well, the words right there, James R. Barker, the Interlake steamship, that is, even the one that's right in the middle there, it's soft, and that is so in your face. It needs to be sharp right there, because there's no ignoring that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on. Heather White has a little aurora. What about kind of coming in? And so the story to me is, of course, the trees and our aurora with the sky up above. This actually looks like we might even have somebody else's tripod legs in here, and the kind of the snow with the tracks in it. That's not an important part of the story to me. So I would come in somewhere around here and try to find a spot that gets us in a little tighter. What do you think?
Yeah, there was a lot of foreground that was being shown, and the foreground is lit up pretty bright, but it's lit up a little spotty. You can see where there's some shadows being cast and stuff, and I would just, yeah, exactly. I would just kind of darken that down, tone it down a bit, because you really want the viewer to be focused on the aurora. And great job capturing the stars up there.
Mm-hmm. They're nice. Very nice. And I think your color balance, your aurora and your blue sky, little hints of magenta, I think all of that's quite nice up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do 2 or 3 more real quick before we say we're done with this. We have Ursula's fall colors.
Can we just play with the exposure here a little bit? I know this is just a hard time of day. It looks like for shooting this.
Are you thinking bringing down a little bit? That's
yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm on. I love this. This is the first. So Ursula sent in a DNG, so we see the edits already. But this is our first where it's clear that Ursula made use of the new masking tools and has done some masking. So I'm actually editing a mask. I didn't want to do that. Overall exposure gonna come down a little bit. Yeah. I love this. It feels like a minimalist painting, and I just love that we've got 3 trees, nice spacing between each one. The colors here are fantastic. I feel like the colors start to fall off a little bit on these 2. And I think I'd like to see them a little bit better. But Tonya, I think the exposure down immediately improves this. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you want to work on those tree colors, you might be able to go down and select kind of the color that you want, and then just play with that one individually.
Yes. So let's come into hue. We got the little donut tool. We're going to grab it, bring it over to the tree, and we're going to drag up or down to see which way. There we go. How's that?
Yeah, well, I think the scene is fairly surreal looking as it is. I mean, it looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss book turned movie. And I mean that as a compliment. I think that's totally cool. And so going a little crazy with some saturation and color as a pop to an otherwise muted area of green and blue and stuff like that is, and I think the exposure was brought down maybe a little too much, because the shadows are getting really dark, and I like that high key look, but it was a little too high key for my taste. But making those colors pop more, I think is a really cool look.
Yeah.
This scene.
Yeah, I think this is really neat. Like, just like you guys said, it has this surrealist feel. So it's very pleasant and just kind of strange in a way for a landscape.
Nice. All right, Ursula. Yos has this foggy, frosty morning.
So immediately go to the crop tool, and there you go. Yeah, because you really, really want just that tree by itself in relation to those clouds that are coming off to the right and the sort of the layer of fog that's back there. This is an awesome scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite lovely. Yep. And as soon as we crop in a little bit, and it's just a story of just this tree with the distant fog.
Yep.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
You could work on a little bit more warmth in the sky if you wanted to, but I think the more muted tones also is very strong here. Very
yeah,
nice.
I like it. I love all the frost on the grass in the foreground. I would definitely go into Photoshop, and I would just take a few things away. There's some dark spots in the foreground, grassy areas that really pop out because it's frosty and cool. So I would just kind of clone those out. And on the tree itself, it depends on how famous this scene is. It's not a scene that I'm familiar with, but I would consider some of those dead branches that are pulling off, that are sticking out there. I'd consider taking those out, but that's the Photoshop artist in me. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Everybody's taste.
That's fine. Okay, last. I can't remember if we've looked at Deb Whirling's Slot Canyon. I think this is lovely.
I was like, I got nothing. Great job, Deb.
I know.
Let's move on.
I know. Very, very nice. Let's go. Lee Lewis, another fall foliage shot.
Very salty. And oh man, I love Lee's work. I love Lee. He's a dear friend. And this is a cool scene, but it's got a lot of saturation and vibrance kicked up, and it's looking spotty. I don't know if that's the feed coming through. It's just hard for me to tell on my screen.
It's definitely, here's what I'll say. If you look at the reflection, I think it looks believable and real, maybe a little salty. But when you get up into the top here, this has been pushed so far that we've lost kind of detail in individual leaves. And it's just kind of a bright orange blob.
Well, he could be going for sort of this really, I don't know, saturated painterly look.
Mm-hmm.
I think crop wise, the little blue sky section in the top right, I would crop that out of there. Mm-hmm. And then on the bottom, you have these little white areas that are poking through in the reflection towards the very bottom. And I don't think that as soon as you notice one, you notice them all. Mm-hmm. And I would either consider clipping those out or just bring the crop up. But it is salty, and for those who don't know, I can't imagine anybody who's watched the show before probably knows. They've heard us talk about this. I'm saying like salt on food. A little bit will really bring the dish out, but too much can spoil the dish. So that's what I mean when I say salty. It's just got a lot of saturation and vibrance plugged into it. And
what I would add to this is, I have the same problem with this as I do with a lot of sunset photos. And it's the fact that I don't know what my subject is. Like, where's the focal point? So for something like this, I almost feel like you maybe want to crop it and make it abstract because it doesn't have a clear focal point.
Yeah.
So you could make it just about the reflection, maybe with just a hint of the far shore or something like that.
Maybe.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I even think maybe with some of the rocks at the bottom, possibly. I don't know, but I just feel like it either needs to be abstract or it needs to be that the viewer knows where to look.
Yep. And we're working with Lee sent in a JPEG, so very limited in trying to bring back the saturation, a little bit down and things like that. So yeah, I agree. Okay. I know we didn't get to all the images, but we made a pretty good dent in them. We're going to come back to us. And Steve, we're going to let you go. I know you got an important appointment
Well, no, my
No.
mother-in-law is staying with us this month. This happens a few times a year, but we had dinner reservations at 6 o'clock tonight, and I just found out about them about an hour before the show. So I'm sorry to having a hard out 1 hour in, but and I love the discussion, and I was really looking forward to talking about some of the gear that's been announced. But
No
you guys
worries, man.
hold the ship
Yep.
down.
Yep. Easiest way to thank Steve for abandoning us is go follow him on Instagram. You should, if you're not already, follow Steve. You should follow David Carr as well, because I love seeing what all of us kind of walked around in the similar places in Italy. But I love seeing how each of us has captured these places, how they process, what they choose to share.
Mhm.
So go follow Steve to see as he's posting more and more shots from Italy. Steve, thanks so much.
Thanks, you guys.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I said I had to go at about an hour or two. I have a little bit more time. So, Tonya, let's talk a little bit about gear. Why do you want the Z9? I mean, I kind of know why, but tell me, first off, tell me what you shoot with now.
Well, I have a Z7.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is why it's really tempting, because I would like to have my backup be a mirrorless too. At first I was like, oh, I love my DSLR and I'll just keep that as my backup. And then as soon as I started buying new lenses, I've never touched it since. Not ever. So it would just, I'll probably go for it in a little bit.
Yeah.
I need to wait a little while because my laptop is doing some weird things. And so that needs to be my first major purchase in January. I'm hoping to get one of the new MacBook Pros. And then I have to start thinking about selling and upgrading gear. So,
yeah.
But I mean, if I had a second mirrorless, I would wait for a long time. But because I don't have a second mirrorless as a backup, it's so tempting. It's just an amazing camera.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid reason. I know a lot of people over the last couple of years have been in this transitory state where they've made an upgrade to the mirrorless, but as a backup camera. And yeah, anybody who's shooting even a little bit professionally or going on kind of once in a lifetime trips like our safaris or Antarctica, you need to have a backup camera. Cameras stop working. And if you are being paid to shoot somebody, or you're going on again a once in a lifetime trip and your camera poops out on you, you want a backup. And especially well, I was going to say especially traveling, but actually it doesn't matter. It's so nice to have one system, same lenses, same batteries, that it really simplifies things and pares things down. That was actually when I upgraded to the A1, that made my R3 my backup camera. And that is a fantastic camera and I love it. And it really makes things much better. And I'm very happy to always know I have a good backup with me. So very, very valid.
It isn't because I'm unhappy in any way with my Z7, because I love it. But that's actually why I want the Z9, because I just know, like, my Z7 will become the backup camera. Mm-hmm. And I just know that I'm going to completely transition as soon as I can. I mean, it's just, again, like, I feel like all of my gear is expensive and needing upgraded at the same time. Last year, I bought all new studio strobes and I bought Pro Photo, which essentially means I bleed money. And and now I need a new computer. And then this came out and I was like, stop. So yeah, I just have to pace myself.
Yeah. No, I understand. And again, you're somebody you're making an income from photography. So it's important to have these tools that work well for you. So yes, a chunk of change, $5,500, but when you compare it to the A1, when you compare it to what the R3 will be, that is actually about $1,000 less than the competitors, where it seems to still stand up in many ways, and maybe even some ways is better at $1,000 less. So that's impressive. This is a fairly important time, I think, for Nikon. Their financials haven't been great for quite a while, but they, and the Z6 and Z7, I think, are fantastic cameras. Ergonomically, I think they're great. They're very good for video, but they weren't seen as the best autofocus capable cameras. I think that the reality is they are absolutely fine for 95% of the people that put their hands on them. Maybe high-end sports photographers might be left wanting a little bit more, but the Z9 really seems to solve all of that issue and be a really, really nice camera.
Yeah. And you had, I feel bad, I can't remember her name, who shot the Olympics on the last show.
Lindsay Watson. Yep.
She's not even using her own gear. So in this, in a case like that where, maybe you're using a camera just for that type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
this is a lot of camera.
Yeah.
There's no way, it's definitely enough. And John Mayfield said to check out the new firmware update. I actually ran that last night. So
nice. Yeah, the firmware updates I heard are improving. I will say one other lovely thing about the Z9. I don't know if I have a picture on B&H. They have done what I think is, there it is, probably the smartest rear screen. It's similar to Fuji in that you can tilt it like the Sony, but you can also tilt it in portrait orientation too.
Yeah.
Which I think is very, very nice. I don't personally feel like I need a screen that flips all the way out to show me, basically a selfie view. That has some drawbacks to it, and I think this is a great system. Are you concerned at all about the size?
I guess I really hadn't thought about it. When I first got my Z7, I was like, this is too small. So, it's just, I'll adjust. But the only thing I would say about that is I use a spider holster.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be a little much with all of that, but I don't know. I'll make it work. I'll get used to it. I assume once you shoot with it a little bit, then you just kind of get muscle memory for it and it doesn't bother you, I don't think.
Yep. Yeah. Are you worried that you are not going to actually here's what I'll say. I think this camera is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be very hard to get your hands on it for quite some time.
Which is just as well.
It's supposed to. B&H says it's going to start shipping December 15th. I've heard that the interest is incredibly high, and that with shipping shortages, as we're saying, or I should say chip shortages, people who want this camera and haven't already put in a pre-order might not be seeing it until well into the next year, and maybe even towards the end of next year. But before, that was a prediction I saw, that it won't actually be in stock regularly until towards the end of next year. So we'll see.
I could wait that long if I had to, I suppose. But
right.
And the other thing that kind of, I guess in my mind, makes me feel like this is a good purchase is I bought my Z7 refurbished from B&H, and I only paid I want to say a little over $2,000 for that. So, and I've never had a single problem. I love buying gear from them, even if it's something that's been refurbished. So, I saved so much on that one. This will be okay.
Yeah. So the Z7 is still on B&H for $2,000, a refurbished body. I fully support buying that way. It is a great way to save money. I think it'll be a little while before we see the Z9s refurbished, though.
Oh yeah.
Nice. The other bit of gear that has come out while I was in Italy is the Mavic 3. Just really pretty impressive. Micro Four Thirds sensor, which I have my GH5 around here somewhere. That is a fantastic. I've taken some of my favorite pictures with that on a Yosemite trip. A Micro Four Thirds sensor. It also can do 5K video, and as I said, 46-minute flight time. So closing in on that 50 minutes, but we should have a little bit of a reality check. I don't think you're going to actually see in the wild, flying it around with wind and things like that, a 46-minute flight time. I think you're probably going to see mid-30s. But even that is pretty dang impressive on a single battery.
This is why Steve left early, because he didn't want to talk about the flight time that he doesn't need.
He has opened the box on his, I think he got the Mavic Air Original, and he's opened the box, and that's all he's ever done. So the good news is incredible flight time, incredible sensor, micro four thirds in there. The bad news is, it's starting at about 2,200. The package that you probably want if you're serious about video is the Sign package, which comes with a terabyte of hard drive inside the drone. And that is up at about, I think, $2,700 or $2,600. So this is getting expensive. This is a significant jump up over the original Mavic. That Sign version, though, does come with a new smart controller, which I have to say, as a person who, relies on the phones often for flying, they're just not fun. I've done videos about the smart controllers. They're really, really nice. And so if you can afford that, if you're serious about flying, they make a difference. But I think this drone has kind of both priced itself and has the capabilities that has put it up in a higher niche. For most of us, including myself, the Air 2S is absolutely fine. Honestly, the Mini is fine for so many of us. So it's cool, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to sell crazy, crazy well because of its pricing. But
and just from some of your posts and stories from Italy, when you share images from your cell phone that are just about as decent and artistic as the ones that you took like legitimately with your camera, that stuff gets scary.
I know. Let me pull up real quick. When we hear this on tours all the time, and Tonya, I'm sure you hear it too as well. People take a picture. They got their camera on the tripod. They take a picture, and then of course they get their phone out and take another picture. And then they're looking at the back of their camera. They're looking at their phone, and they're like, "My phone picture looks better. Why am I even bothering?" And the answer is, when you want to start working on it or you want to print it, the phone pictures don't really hold up. But geez, we're getting close. Let me find the nighttime shot. Here it is in my Google Photos. This is a nighttime shot with the Pixel 6 Pro. And you zoom in, and it does not fall apart that quickly. That's as much as it'll let me zoom in. But, I mean, there's a lot of detail in this shot from the phone. Yeah, I love my I love my big mirrorless camera. I'm going to carry it around with me, but it is really impressive the point at which we're at now with these phones and their capabilities. I mean, we've been there for a while, but it's been improving, and it's a bit shocking. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten to the point already, like on family trips and things like that, I rarely ever take my real camera because for what I'm going to use them for, my cell phone is going to be good enough, and it's so convenient. Yep. And then it's one less thing I have to carry, and just makes everything easier because, you're on vacation. But I mean, obviously for a trip like this, you want to come home with artwork that can be wall art.
We do. Yep. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I hope to print one or two of these, a little bit larger, the pixel pictures, just to kind of compare. I'd be curious to see how they stand up once they're printed. And I say that, and I have a metal print upstairs in a room that is, I think, a 16 by 20, or maybe it's a tiny bit smaller than that, from an LG. I think it was a 12 megapixel LG. It's a picture in Greece from, I don't know, what was that? From 2015. 2015, I went to Greece on a McKay trip, and I love that picture. Yeah. When you get up close to it, there's a little bit of lack of detail in there, but you don't stand with your nose up to the picture. So
I just printed something very large that was from 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I have some macro images from my film days that I just still love, and I just keep reprinting them. So.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I think we touched on the Lightroom, the new masking tools. Pen members, you're going to get a series of videos about this. Tonya, you're finding it useful though, especially the subject select?
Yeah. So one of the things I do with clients is I take a lot of images, and then I send them an initial gallery, and I have them choose based off of expression and pose, so that I'm editing what is valuable to them. Like, I don't want to just edit everything. I want to edit what they're going to print. Or in some cases, they pick a package where they get a certain amount of images. So this actually, I like to try and do all of the the edits for that initial gallery just in Lightroom. And then I bring into Photoshop everything that they choose, and I do my retouching. And so this really gives me a lot more ability to kind of tighten up that initial gallery, because I can do that subject select. So that's really exciting for me.
Yep. Yep. And I don't know if you know this, but I learned that you can put these masks into presets. So you can have a subject mask in a preset, and each time it is going to recalculate. A little dangerous because obviously each time it's recalculating as you apply it to a new picture, it might get your subject wrong. But the fact that you can have a mask plus the edits all saved in a preset to apply is pretty neat.
So I wonder how different that is, because sometimes when I'm in Lightroom, if I have a number of images and let's say I shot them all at the same setting, but I have different expressions and poses, I will edit one and then I will copy that edit and I will paste it to all of the ones. So I wonder which one of those would be more accurate to do. If to create a preset, or if I just kind of copy and paste those edits to the group that are all in the same kind of setting. But
yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'll have to figure that out, because I like fast work.
Let us know. I know. And that's another thing, that the syncing across of Lightroom is just really quite impressive. And the update has improved the speed at which those thumbnails regenerate. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh, okay. I haven't used it too much. I just ran the updates. I get scared to run updates when I'm in the middle of heavy editing.
That's very understandable.
Because I know a lot of people are having issues with their Lightroom catalogs, and I don't have time for that. So I will wait until I have finished a couple sessions, and right before I start the next group, and that's when I will do it. Because I do get excited. I would rather jump on the update bandwagon and kind of learn it as fast as I can, instead of put it off for anything, Adobe products, social media, whatever. I'd just rather figure it out. But it always scares me when I'm in the middle of a workflow.
Yep, that's very, very understandable, especially one where you are forced to upgrade the catalog. I upgraded very quickly because I want to be knowledgeable and teaching about this. And if it broke, I'm not trying to deliver images to clients right away. So I have a little bit of cushion there. But I understand that. It's interesting to me that they do release such big updates kind of in the fall. Maybe this is a very, a North America centric view, but I feel like the fall for both wedding photographers, portraits, senior, what kind of personal photographer isn't really busy right now?
Yeah. That's why I won't even buy a new laptop until January, because that's when I kind of slow down. Yeah. And I just don't even want to have to deal with it. I will get it and I'll just let it sit in the box because I don't have time.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on to the Q&A, because Sue Stevenson has a question that's related to what we're talking about right now. Is her Lightroom upgrade has caused her issues. She doesn't say what, so I'm not sure how to help you there, Sue. But it does seem that she said, it seems I was forced to upgrade. My question is whether you must, or is there a way to bypass it? You don't have to upgrade. You don't have to press that little upgrade button, or if you felt like it was automatic, you might have that box checked in Creative Cloud. So if we go into Creative Cloud, there should be a place where you can say, don't make my, here we go. Let me share this. In Creative Cloud, which is this little program that sits here and runs, you have the ability to uncheck or turn off always. Oh, that's this app itself, though. There's a way. Auto update. Just turn auto update off, or turn it off for Lightroom. And then it's not going to update itself. At some point in the future, though, they're going to make life difficult for you some way. That's how they kind of get you to constantly upgrade. But you don't have to in the meantime. For the most part, I'm hearing very little bad stuff happening from this upgrade, which is good. But it's always so scary when it is an update that does force your catalog to upgrade. You should have your catalog backed up nicely before you do this. And in a way that's not even that necessary, because it makes a whole new catalog. And, one of the things that I hear from people is, oh, it lost a bunch of pictures of mine. I think what happens sometimes is after an update, people go and look carefully and notice that some pictures are missing. I suspect some of those pictures, if not all of them, were missing before the update. You just didn't look closely in a while. But but there are certainly things that happen when upgrading. It's not always perfectly smooth. And in the past, there have been some pretty big issues. Lightroom usually is quick to fix those. But if you're like you, Tonya, and you were trying to get out pictures to clients in a very tight deadline, even a day or two lost can be a really big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like keep and store my images in Lightroom like I think some of you do. I really use Lightroom for culling, and then I move them out, and I don't come back to them there.
I think that's strange, but that's okay.
I know.
No, I mean, you're definitely not the only person. Both Allie and Dave, they're not Lightroom users, and we have others that aren't Lightroom users as well. So it's not just you.
I mean, I use it, but I actually delete them from Lightroom once I have them backed up other places.
Interesting.
So
all right.
I don't store.
Okay.
I just don't store them there, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sue says she lost over 40,000 missing in one upgrade. Sorry, Sue. That's very frustrating. There are the older versions. There are ways to get back to those older versions in the Creative Cloud app. You could reinstall and see. But hopefully it's just the connections that are lost. And once you point it back towards these files, because it shouldn't be actually touching your folders of photos.
Right.
That's just not how Lightroom works. I wanted to bring up real quick, the next question we had, let me find a picture that might work for it, is Photoshop now added some new neural filters. And Jason asked earlier in the show, have we tried out the landscape mixer neural filter yet in Photoshop? And Photoshop got updates as well. The subject selection tool is now near instantaneous. It shows you what you're going to select. It's a little bit better. And some other updates that I haven't used at all, so I can't talk about them. I don't know. Have you seen anything or felt anything different in Photoshop?
I haven't, but I have to say I would probably notice it more when I'm working on artwork than when I am working on client work. And I wouldn't be using neural filters in client work at all. And sometimes I use subject select, but I have to say that I've been pretty happy with that for a while. So I don't know. I use it like for one background select. And I can't say that I noticed a change, but that might have been before I ran the update. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's similar. I feel very happy with the subject select, but it is supposed to be faster now. Sue saying she has to find them one by one. Sue, you should be able to find the folders that these are in and just point it to the folder. If it's just a random smattering of 40,000 pictures, though, I don't understand how that happens. So sorry. Okay, check this out real quick. The neural filters are certainly fun. As Tonya, you just said, you're not really using them in client work, but you might at some point in the future. I haven't tried out the skin smoothing. And then there's the smart portrait, which you can force somebody to smile who might not have been as smiley. But it's creepy because we've done this one before. It adds teeth. If you didn't smile with teeth, it adds somebody else's teeth in your mouth. But now it has this landscape mixer, which magically transform a landscape by mixing another image or changing attributes like time of day and season. So I'm curious. We have this picture of kind of some vineyards up in the Tuscany region. And if we click this snowy picture and we wait a moment, what's going to happen? Is it going to make this look like a winter wonderland? How well will this work? What does this mean for the future of photography? I don't know.
How long does it take?
How long does it take on Toby's old iMac? While we wait, let me say this about the new Macs. They look fantastic. If you are considering one, I think almost all of you would be absolutely fine with the base model. Holy crap.
Oh, wow.
It's a little on the blue side, but geez, it like took the leaves off the trees and made them barren.
That is kind of amazing, and I love it.
Wow.
I have no idea how it did that.
And you know, I don't love the blue, so let's just say okay to this, and then you know,
Yeah, but
real quick,
then go back in and
adjustment layer, and you know, a black and white.
what? Are you telling me I can add snow to everythh? That's
I
what
think
I'm
you can add snow to everything. I mean, I think that's a, you know, senior portraits. You're like, for $10, I'll shoot your pictures in the fall and winter.
Wow.
And yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is fascinating. And this is one of those things. Hey, if you have some time on your hand, I would love to see before and after pictures where you're playing around with these neural filters. Here they are on filter. Where'd they go? Neural filters right here. Post them in the community forum or on the Facebook page. This would be fun to see.
Yeah.
And see what you all think. I can't believe what it did with the trees here. That to me in the foreground looks incredibly realistic.
It really does. I'm very confused.
Yeah. I started to say, oh, the new Max, the base model, M1 Pro chip, the 16 gigabytes of RAM. Yep, just 16 is all you need. All of the reviews I've read or watched, marginal difference between 16 and 32. And then you decide what size hard drive you should get, but I would get at least a terabyte. And that's going to be fantastic. That's going to be a fantastic machine for you. I am still happy with my Air as a travel device. So although I would like the slightly more power, or I should say the more power that the new Pro chips provide, I think I'm okay still with the Air. We'll see how long that lasts. I edit most of my pictures on here. I edit 4K video on here, and it does what I need. I was teaching Lightroom in Italy for a little bit, and I was importing in Lightroom and tried to do like a little bit of editing at the same time. And it hung up, and I saw the beach ball for a little bit longer than I wanted. But that's really the first time I've had that issue, and I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was before or after the update. I think that was after the update. So I don't know.
Yeah, my computer shut off like twice this week for no reason.
Yeah.
That's when I start getting scared. And I'm always backing up. So I'm not super scared of losing anything, but I like to be the one to make the transition and not be forced into it.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yep. Okay. I think we covered everything, and that was a couple of questions that we had. And yeah. So, Tonya, thanks so much for hanging out with us. As we've said, it's definitely your busy season, so we really appreciate you taking time to hang out with us this afternoon or this evening. If you don't already, you should go follow Tonya at TonyaWilhelm.artist. And from there, she's got a little link in her bio. Go see the portraits that she's currently taking. Lots of great senior portraits and family. And you can also get to your macro work too, which I imagine is a little bit on hold, back burner right now.
Yeah. Mostly just from time.
Understandable.
I mean, I sometimes I just even forget to post. Like I have stuff, but yeah, if you're like following this in my artist Instagram and I'm not hanging out there, I'm probably at my Wilhelm photography one working on client stuff. So.
All right. And if you're watching the show to the end and you haven't already, a thumbs up is very nice. And if you're not a subscriber, hitting that subscribe button and the little bell to be notified of future videos. I have to finish up my review. I took this lens to Italy. It's for a crop sensor. It's at 18-300. Generally, I'm not a fan of your do-it-all lenses because you're making some pretty hefty sacrifices to get such convenience in one lens. But geez, they've done a good job. And if you don't mind some minor sacrifices, that's a great lens. And it's only $699. So if you're on a crop sensor, if you're not on a crop sensor, it's not as exciting of a lens. But I've been really impressed with that. Tamron's doing some great stuff. And I've got reviews coming of the updated 28-75 and how I feel about that lens. And I can't remember what else. Tamron is sending me Maybe they're what is it? They're 50 to 150 lens, which is getting rave reviews, which is an interesting focal length. But we'll talk about that when I get my hands on it. So that stuff's coming. That's why you should press the subscribe button and the little bell. And of course, if you're watching this and you're not a Pen member, photorec.tv/pen. It's a fantastic community on the internet. All right. Tonya, thanks so much. Everybody watching, thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Next week, I have a food photographer that I think is creating some gorgeous images. So I'm very excited to have him on as a guest. All right, everybody.